I guess this is where he wanted me to go. So. So this was the place and time that I was told about. You bring the stuff?
Password?
Justin Bailey.
Permission granted. Got the payment?
One set of Final Fantasy Cup noodles.
Well, seems like we have a deal.
This is LSD, a PlayStation game. It isn't much of a game, or even normal kid stuff. It's the most strange kind of game, and it can confuse you. What's really bad about it is no one knows how much it costs, so if you want to buy it, you risk bankruptcy. It isn't worth it. Look, everyone wants to collect games, but doing it with LSD isn't just wrong, it's broke wrong.
Okay. Collectors do know how much LSD Dream Emulator costs. The game is consistently one of the more expensive titles for the Sony PlayStation, and at the time of writing this script in late spring of 2019, it's still sitting pretty at about $400 to $500 US on eBay. And that's why I've decided to go with the more economical route. The purist in me is a bit disappointed to be relegated to a reproduction copy, but let's be real, $500 is a lot to drop, so this affordable alternative gets my thumbs up. If you're interested in following in my footsteps and purchasing a repro of the game, here's something to take note of. LSD Dream Emulator was released exclusively in Japan. Therefore, reproductions of the game are based on the original region's code, and as such, you'll need to have a modded PlayStation that can bypass the region locking of NTSC-J games, which we've now acquired since our last video. We actually own a modded console, thankfully. Between Helen and I, we've played a lot of games. Many of them good, and some of them not so good. But neither of us have seen a game as, well, unique as this one. LSD Dream Emulator is truly in a league of its own whenever it comes to one-of-a-kind concepts. While we've already made a few allusions to drugs regarding this game, it's important to note that LSD Dream Emulator is not about drugs at all. The idea that LSD is a drug simulation adventure is a huge misconception. The LSD in LSD Dream Emulator doesn't stand for lysergic acid diethylmide, also known as acid, but instead can stand for a variety of various acronyms. One of the acronyms it also stands for is Lovely Sweet Dream, and it's based on a dream journal that was written by Hiroko Nishikawa, a staff member at the company that developed LSD, Asmik Ace Entertainment. Strangely enough, there are actually fan-made physical copies of Nishikawa's dream journal available for purchase, but they can cost you just as much as the game itself. So instead, if you're interested, we'll be linking to a PDF of the dream journal that we found online, and you can find it down in the description, and if you'd like to, you can explore this resource for yourself. Nishikawa's dream journal is a very strange read, and it spans a fairly impressive 200 pages. However, the journal progresses pretty quickly, considering that most of it's visually based. The copy linked below has some translations for our non-Japanese speaking viewers. I definitely recommend giving this a look because some of the artwork featured in Nishikawa's dream journal is highly intriguing. Combine the avant-garde subject matter of Nishikawa's dream journal with Japanese artist and game director Osamu Sato, who already had a history of making surrealist-style video games, and you get LSD Dream Emulator, which would be released on October 22nd, 1998 for the Sony PlayStation. Before we get too far, I wanted to point out one thing that immediately makes this game exceptionally interesting, and that is the deluxe version of LSD Dream Emulator, or in my case, the deluxe reproduction, actually comes packaged with a bonus music CD entitled Lucy in the Sky with Dynamite, paying obvious homage to the Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The reason for this CD's inclusion, I would suspect, is due to the fact the game's director, Osamu Sato, is a music producer, and as a result, he had a heavy hand in working on the sound design and music of the game. It's important to distinguish that this isn't a direct soundtrack of the game. This is actually an hour-long continuous mix of a completely different bonus track. As you would expect, the sounds of Lucy are surreal and strange. But if you like your trip-hop with a dash of psychedelics and electro, you'll enjoy it. Here's a small little sampling of it. And now, without further ado, let me turn things over so we can move on to the actual game itself.
The game starts up with one of multiple different cutscenes. The cutscenes we saw included an amalgam of images, including cityscapes, rotoscoped sumo wrestlers, seemingly random phrases, and a variety of other bizarre, borderline epileptic footage. After this trip, the player is dropped off at the main menu to begin their own dream journal journey. The introduction for LSD Dream Emulator is weird in that it basically tells the player nothing in regard to what the game is about. Typically, when starting up a game, the cutscenes at the beginning are what sets the stage for the game, and they serve as the immersion of the player into the game's world. You see, LSD Dream Emulator doesn't really do this. The imagery used in the beginning cutscene appears random to the casual observer, with no rhyme or reason. How do these things connect? I have no idea. On second thought, maybe the director of the game, Osamu Sato, was onto something here. Perhaps he used all of this arbitrary imagery to imply that LSD Dream Emulator is not actually about nothing, but about everything. Anyways, enough intellectual hour jabber here. Let's talk gameplay. The first thing that came to my mind when playing LSD Dream Emulator was Walking Simulator. You do a lot of walking. Walking through the dark, walking through the light, walking through cities, walking through deserts, walking through imitation Legoland. Walking. Similar to Christopher Nolan's Inception, what your character is walking through are actually different dreams. The player can walk basically anywhere, just don't touch the walls. If you touch the walls, the dream will end and you'll be sent deeper into another layer of the dream. Well, usually. The game has a degree of unpredictability. Sometimes you can trigger certain events and moments, but most of the time, event triggers come down to luck and random chance. When a dream ends, the day counter on the title screen will advance, and upon re-entering the game, the player will be dropped into a new dream. The game has a map of sorts that is revealed to the player just after they complete a dream, but right before they're sent back to the game's title screen. The dream map tells the player a little more about the dream that they just cleared, and whether it was an upper or a downer, and either static or dynamic. You see, dreams are categorized as either uppers or downers on the y-axis. Upper dreams are usually brighter colored, happier dreams, while downer dreams are typically darker, murkier, and gloomier. On the x-axis are static or dynamic dreams. Once again, they are polar, with static dreams being more normal and predictable, with few to no NPCs or variety. Dynamic dreams, on the other hand, are chaotic and more expressive, typically featuring NPCs and variety. Many of the areas the player explores in the game link to and influence the various dreams the player will have next. An example of an upper dynamic dream, like this one taking place in Happy Town, features a Ferris wheel and rainbow-colored marching soldiers. However, an example of a downer dream might occur in a setting like the Violence District, categorized by grimmer imagery, like this ghost lady whose head falls off when you approach her. Yeah, some parts of LSD Dream Emulator can get pretty weird. Take, for example, the aforementioned Ferris wheel. It's one of the few things that is a guaranteed trigger in the game. When you touch one of the cars on the Ferris wheel, you're sent specifically to the cutscene shown here. Yeah, words can't describe some of the imagery that you see in this game. There were multiple times during our play sessions where we found ourselves completely dumbfounded by what we saw. LSD Dream Emulator evokes incredibly high highs and incredibly low lows in the player. One minute you'll be in a crazy place like Happy Town with an overabundance of whacked out color gun testing hues, and then all of a sudden you'll be in the violence district, finding chalk lines and bodies in dumpsters. Just because you find yourself in Happy Town or in the violence district doesn't necessarily mean that the player is still having a dream that reflects the imagery at 100%. You could be seeing the horrors of the violence district and still technically be in an upper dream. LSD is strangely unpredictable, and the game's inner machinations have remained mostly unsolved over the last 20 years. When talking about locations, Happy Town and the Violence District are two of the most common locations you'll end up in. However, you're also likely to find yourself in Kyoto, Pitten Temple, or the natural world at some point in your journey. Some of our notable favorite environments are Black Space, Sunface Heave, Clockwork Machines, and Monument Park. The variety of environments for LSD Dream Emulator are as wide and as vast as the potential ways to interpret the game as a whole. That is to say, the possibilities for both are endless.
It's important to note that the maps within the game are unchanging. That is, they're not procedurally generated or randomized. That means there won't ever be a random building that didn't previously exist in a particular area. However, the content that will change are the textures and NPCs that are found within that particular area. Rumor has it that there is actually some hidden meaning behind seeing certain textures or NPCs, but I'm not going to pretend that I know all the meanings of these items. Instead, I'll just take them at face value and chalk it all up as part of the mystery that is LSD Dream Emulator. Many of the textures that can be encountered range from real-life imagery to kanji to borderline glitchy textures. In many ways, the various NPCs are just as bad, if not worse. Giant babies, this weird thing called Double Face, a murderous TV channel, massive demon creatures, and many more occupy the dream environments. The Violence District is home to a few creepy, albeit notable NPCs, including a gunman, a murderer, and even hanging women. The game isn't afraid to get surreal and even visceral at times with its NPCs and imagery. Due to the strange nature of this game, during its darkest moments, LSD even went as far as to feel kind of like a horror game, especially whenever there wasn't any audio or music in the background. It was just the sound of you walking through the streets. And of course, we cannot dive into the NPCs of this game without bringing up the de facto antagonist of the game, the Gray Man, a grayscale figure who looks like a gumshoe detective from afar. In some of your dreams, the Gray Man will just appear out of nowhere and slowly start sliding towards the player. If caught, he will damage the dream journal by ending the current dream. Sometimes, in addition to ending the dream, the Gray Man will also erase your memory by removing the ability to use the flashback option in the menu, a mode that allows you to revisit your previous dream. While not game-breaking, the Gray Man can hinder progress towards the end goal of completing the dream journal. Another strange facet of the game is that sometimes your dreams don't even involve gameplay at all. Occasionally you'll get a cutscene as your dream, and there are 24 of these bizarre clips in total, which can range from live-action video to animation, or even a color bar test, which I'll admit almost scared me to death. I wasn't expecting my game to just blare at me with the test tones and static after hitting the start button just to start my next dream. On the opposite side of the spectrum, a more calm thing that you might encounter is a text dream, which, as a Western player, is instantly confusing, unless you're familiar with the Japanese language. All they do is show up and your dream is then over. So they have little to no value to the English-speaking player. Thankfully, other players have went through the trouble of translating these screens, so we can once again experience the bizarre nature of this game, now in short story form. Take, for example, this story, Water Cat. There is a big pond inside the house. I'm swimming in it, and I can see a big, bloated cat floating in the water. It is called Water Cat. It is really soft. Hugging it gives me a warm feeling. This cat can only be with me when I take my contact lenses out. I'd say that this leads us to the end of LSD Dream Emulator. But to be honest, the game doesn't even really have an ending either. As mentioned earlier, the game progresses based on days. Once you have completed one calendar year in a dream journal, the player is rewarded with a video that happens specifically on day 365. This specific dream is referred to as a Hatsuyume in the Japanese culture. A Hatsuyume, or first dream, is supposed to be a dream that happens on the first of a new year and is said to predict how life's events will play out for the next 12 months. Similar to the video dreams that I previously mentioned, this Hatsuyume is a cutscene, and in this cutscene, the player sees Mount Fuji, a hawk, and some eggplants, representing a life filled with health and progress. All in all, it means you're supposed to have a good year according to Japanese culture. And this is pretty much the closest thing the player will get to an ending, because the game cycles back to the beginning of the counter after day 365. The dream chart will remain the same, and the game can continue to be played as normal. Just in case you're wondering, leap years are not factored into the game's calendar. I guess the development team never thought that someone would actually attempt to experience over, well, let's say, 1,200 dreams. They're probably right.
Day 3,793. I've been on the road for what feels like forever. And I remember saying something like, "I'm feeling a little bit lightheaded. Maybe you should drive." Suddenly there was a terrible screech, and the sky was full of what looked like Zubats as far as the eye could see, all swooping and screeching and diving around the car. And a voice was screaming,
"Oh, the Arceus! What are these damn Pokemon? What does this look like? Cycling road? Let's go! Go!"
We played many bizarre, mind-warping games before. Katamari, Seaman, Mr. Mosquito, even WarioWare Twisted in a Game Boy player. Not that we needed all that for the experience, but you know how it is. Once you get locked in a serious gaming binge, the tendency is to push it as far as you can. The only thing that really worried me was LSD. There's nothing in the world more helpless and irresponsible and depraved than a man trying to figure out the finer workings of LSD Dream Emulator.
Think we should give that boy a lift?
We can't stop here. This is Zubat country. Get in.
Well, hey, so if you made it this far, I just wanted to end with a few things here. The first is, of course, thanks for watching. We are always appreciative of whenever people watch, share, subscribe, whatever you do. We really love it. We know that we're not able to put out videos all the time, but we really do enjoy the great response we get whenever we do. So I just wanted to take a few seconds to talk about LSD. The first thing is if you have a Japanese PlayStation Network account, you can actually buy and download the game. The second thing is that if you would like to play it on PC, there is a fan-made remake called LSD Revamped. You can find that in the description as well. And I'll also be linking to the Etsy store where I got my reproduction copy from. And of course, if you'd like to pursue it, you can go get yourself a legit copy for $400 to $500. It's a cult classic and it should hold its value at least. And yeah, that's all I had to talk about that. And of course, I would like to end with just saying, keep liking our videos, subscribe if you haven't, or stay subscribed and click the bell so you get notifications. And of course, if you would like to hear more from us, you can either follow us on Facebook, or you can go to our website where we still write articles, and this is also where all the videos get posted. Yeah, we would just appreciate any engagement we can in any sort of way. Thanks for watching.